Just want to welcome everybody here today. We've had a day full of meetings. A lot of good stuff went on. We heard a lot of good things. Tonight, or this afternoon, Dr. Wagner will be giving us a presentation on what we talked about today. His name is Matt.
Dr. Wagner makes me nervous.
But he works for the Main Street program, Main Street America. Been involved in economic development, entrepreneurship, and those sort of things 30 plus years. So he's got a good background and gave us a lot of good information. He has Ellie Duddy McFadden with him. Ellie, good to see you again. Been an hour or so. But Ellie's here to help him. She works with Virginia Main Street. And she's probably Terry and Julie's main contact to Main Street, Virginia Main Street. So with that, they're here. They will give us some information and just listen to what they have to say, and I'm sure he'll give us time for plenty of questions.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Mayor. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for coming out. I appreciate it. And yeah, I just recently moved to Virginia. Actually, I live about 20 minutes south of Farmville, and I was coming to Virginia for must have been 4 or 5 straight years. And the big thing that got me, so I was living in Milwaukee, all right? We know the city manager's a big Green Bay Packer fan, so as am I, I'll still admit it. And, but I would come in February, and I'd be traveling around the state, especially as I get a little bit further east, and grass was coming up. And I was like, wow, in Wisconsin, grass doesn't come up until May or June. And I thought, this is where I'm going to move. Because I got 4 seasons, and like grass that comes up in February. I knew this was the place to call home, and it's been great. And I like getting out in town, so I got a lot of opportunity, both around the country, but here in Virginia. And so I feel like I know the communities. I was in Covington maybe 2 years ago, a couple times, worked with the chamber and thinking about the Highlands and about brand identity. And so it was great to come back as Covington embarked in their Mobilizing Main Street initiative. And so what Ellie and I are doing here, what we spent the time doing, is really trying to think through how can we, as the Main Street effort is being kicked off here, how can we kind of overlay strategy to it? So how many of you are business owners out here? All right, we've got a few business owners. And the thing with business is there's always competition. There's always someone, it's really hard in business to be doing something that's totally unique that no one else is doing. Well, downtowns are no different. There's downtowns all across the country. And if you think about them as a product, they have unique qualities, just like a business does. They have specific customers. They have particular sort of business aspects to them that make them unique and set them apart from others. And so as such, what downtown Covington does is part of its downtown revitalization effort. While many of the same foundations that work in other places will work here, there's also a lot of unique strategies that should be employed that are specific to Covington. Why sort of waste your time doing things that other folks are doing if they're not going to work here? So let's figure out what's best for you all, and then make sure that you're putting your time and effort and resources and capacity towards what works for you. So that's what we're doing here today. We're looking at what a lot of folks would refer to as kind of like a market analysis. It's trying to analyze the local economy, better understand the downtown, and what kinds of strategies are going to be most effective. So we use a lot of different inputs, and what I'm going to do and run through with you, sort of a condensed version. I don't want to put anyone to sleep. I know it's getting late and there's no more coffee. So I'm going to do more of a condensed version. But I'm going to run through some of the data. You all did a bang-up job in surveying the community and get a response from the community. Bang-up job is not an academic term, so I don't care if I have that PhD. You can hear me talk. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about some market data. But the most important thing is some early thoughts around what the Old Town Covington group might want to pursue. here, okay? So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to walk you through some visuals, and if you've got questions as we go through, feel free to interrupt, raise your hand, or whatever. I'm happy to sort of explain anything, and as the mayor mentioned, I'll make sure we have some time at the end if you've got questions or comments or feedback for the group, okay? Sound like a plan?
Yep.
All right, we got an agreement? All right. So, Main Street, if you don't have a lot of background, aren't sure, what are we talking about? What is this Main Street kind of process organization? So I'm with Main Street America. It's based in Chicago. I live in Virginia. And we are the national network. There are about 1,200 Main Street programs across the U.S., okay? Both in small towns, as small as Bonaparte, Iowa, I think population 562, all the way up to, I think we've got 25 districts in D.C., another 20-something in Boston, we're in Orlando, Fort Worth, Salt Lake. So we're in big cities in the neighborhoods that are kind of like small downtowns in big cities, but we're also in a lot of small towns, about 65, 70%, depending on your definition of rural, which there are about 30 definitions in the government about what is rural, but I think we know it when we see it. We're about 60-70% of our communities are rural. So we know rural. We've been working for 43 years in downtown revitalization across the country. And we partner, and our partner here is the Virginia Main Street. They serve as the coordinator for all the activities that occur in Virginia. It's not me, it's Ellie and her group. They do all the heavy lift here. I get to come in and work with them in providing direct technical assistance. We also have our membership. We do a national conference. We do research. We do trend analysis about what's happening. But they're the day-to-day here in Virginia. And the real work occurs here in the local community. Okay? It's you all doing the heavy lift. No one comes from outside and rides in on their horse and saves the community. You all do the work. Okay? You know this community. You know it better than I. And my hope is that I can provide you a little bit of guidance and understanding, and then you all better set up to do the heavy lift. Okay? But we're very grassroots. We're all about incrementalism, starting small. So bear with the local group. This takes patience. It took a long time for downtown to evolve and change. And it will take a little while to be as vigorous and vibrant as you all expected from this program. But already, from someone that's come in from the outside and had an opportunity to walk around, you're already making big strides. Okay? The city's done a wonderful job making investments. You now walk up Maple, where the new streetscape is. Has anyone done that? You ever able to just walk from down by the brewery back down downtown? It's lovely. Or from the library, great asset, right, where the new gazebo kind of thing is by the river, and just look at the mountain in the background. Like, your downtown's beautiful. Okay? Does it need work? Sure. Well, every downtown does. Every shopping district needs work. It's continual work. But you're making huge strides. And the biggest one has been the investment, and now you're making more investment in an organization to actually sort of manage and create that revitalization effort. So we work in what's called the 4-point approach. All right? And if you take anything away, I hope you'll be all sort of disciples of the 4-point approach. Now, I sound like a preacher. But we work in 4 different areas. And the reason why is we believe that you got to be comprehensive. That you can't just focus on, if we just market downtown Covington, all these shoppers will come. Well, if you don't have the right business mix, then you're going to market, you're going to bring them here, but then there's nothing for them to do. Or we're just going to beautify downtown. Well, that's great, but what if the businesses aren't behind the windows? If there's nothing there. So you've got to work in a number of different areas. So we're about being comprehensive, and these are the 4 areas that this group will be working with. The wonderful thing is, all of you already showed up tonight, which means you're committed to the community, you want to understand. You also have opportunities to volunteer, right, Terry?
That's right.
So, Terry will gladly take your name if you have any interest in helping out the program, but largely volunteers work in these areas. We're grassroots, okay? Bottom up, not top down, all right? The other big item is You know when you go to school and everyone's learning sort of the same thing, and then eventually you kind of like, I want to be this. I want to be an artist or a dentist or whatever, and you specialize in something. Okay, that's kind of the moment that we're at here. There are some foundational things that Old Town Covington will be working on, okay, that every Main Street does. But at the end of the day, they should also, as I mentioned earlier, they should be thinking more strategically. What is our market? What kinds of businesses will work best here in downtown? Who's going to be shopping here? How do we expand that? And there are activities that they can be working on that will be particular to the opportunities that are here in Covington. Not in Lewisburg, not in Lexington, not in Roanoke, not in other places, but unique to Covington. And so that's kind of like an overlay to the 4-point approach is strategy. It's just doing things that are particularly unique and competitive for you all. And so those can be things like, this is just examples. This is not Covington. These are just examples. Like for instance, if you go to Lexington, what's in Lexington? What do you know Lexington about? Colleges. History, Washington Lee, VMI, right? And so their downtown is very reflective of those characteristics, okay? I live outside of Farmville. I was telling these guys, you go to downtown Farmville. Anyone been downtown Farmville? Okay. What's in downtown Farmville?
Green front.
Exactly, right? Green front furniture, it takes up like 60% of downtown. Like they got all these warehouse things. People are there shopping for furniture or accessories or whatever. That's what they're known for, okay? That's its niche or mix. And so part of this is thinking about, okay, are there particular customer strategies that you can deploy? Or are there product-based strategies, okay? And for some communities, this is still evolving. It may not be known. There's some communities that have very mature, very distinct, like the two that I mentioned, and some where it's still an evolution. And I think that's where we're at in Covington. There are certainly some opportunities, whether it's in like outdoor recreation, things that you can build from, things like assets like the Discovery Museum and kids kinds of activities that you can build from. But it's still an evolution, okay? But ultimately, that's where you're trying to get. You're trying to sort of build that market. I'm going to give you an example. Okay, I'm just going to run through this pretty quickly of how this stuff works, so you'll have a good understanding and grounding. This is Alberta, not Alberta, Canada, but it's actually a neighborhood. But it looks and functions just like a small town. It's based in Portland, and it's very sort of. They're very like environmentally conscious. Sustainability is kind of a big thing, and they're into the arts. Okay, this is what they do. And so a lot of the work, a lot of the graphical elements for their downtown are reflective of that, and their organization promotes that. So you can bet they like do an Earth Day kind of deal, because that's what they're interested in. That's what their shoppers are interested in. Their design, their aesthetics also promote that same brand identity. Okay, so like even their trash containers are very artsy because that's one of the things that they sort of reflect. Okay, and I'm kind of going through this fast, but you can just see some of the things that they use. Even the materials are like reused materials. Okay, because that would be recycling. Okay, the green sort of methodology there, and then murals. So you can do very similar things. You can have artwork in your downtown. You can have, obviously, like trash receptacles and benches, but you can also nuance those things to a particular brand strategy or an identity, okay? So you can take common elements that every downtown and commercial shopping district have and still make it unique to Covington, all right? Even your light poles. I haven't seen light poles like that with the little green sort of, I don't even know what you call that.
Wagon wheel.
Wagon wheel? Is that what it is? Okay. Like, I haven't seen that. Like, that's unique here. And so you can have unique features that are promoted through design elements, okay? For them, they also have like bike paths and car charging stations, as you can imagine. And then on the economic development, which is that fourth aspect of Main Street, their business mix is not everything, but a lot of their businesses are reflective of that particular strategy. Okay, so they've got like on their foods, they do a lot of like maybe vegan or organic or whatever it is that's reflective of their strategy. They have you can see this Eco Power Fitness. So they have a gym in their downtown. Well, their gym is no standard gym. They've got bicycles in the front. You can watch them in the window. And when they're cycling, it's hooked to power. So they're burning wattage and they're powering their building. Okay? So even that is nuanced. Not everything, but a lot of it is. Okay? Plays to that particular strategy. They're also very much into carving out pathways for people to get in business. They were one of the first in the country to do, you all seen food trucks, right? But they were one of the first to actually like do these like little caravans. This was like the early stages of food trucks. And now like there's mobile retailing. You can like buy clothing, bikes, lots of things through mobile retailing. They were one of the first in the country to do it. So the key thing is that you craft a vision and a story, and then your activities and the work that you do within that 4-point approach is directed towards those areas. So that's kind of what we were working on. We didn't do Alberta's strategy, but we started to talk about what are the elements here that might make sense to start directing those, refining the work here to a greater extent. Okay? So I want to share a few elements on how we did that, how we looked at it. We don't just look at data, okay? That's key. A lot of market analysis work is very data focused, and someone's in their office back in some city or whatever and analyzing data and making all these decisions. But data actually looks backwards, doesn't always look forward. It's hard to project, okay? And any projection is based on what already occurred, and it takes none of the context. Doesn't take in the people aspect. It doesn't take in the conversations, the energy, the passion, how the buildings look, who's already here. It doesn't take any of that into it. And so our work is very context heavy. That's why we're here. If I didn't walk around your downtown, I wouldn't pick up probably a half of what's needed to hopefully be valuable to you in making recommendations. Okay? You've got to be here. You've got to talk to people in order to make that happen. And so one of the ways that we did that was just through a simple survey tool. And I just want to say wow, huge. You had 280 surveys completed. Now, yes, Mayor, how many folks are there? 7,000?
5,000.
5,000 in Covington, okay? I keep thinking 7,000. 5,000, all right? 280, they make political polls on less than this. That is a huge number for a community and for an upstart Main Street program to achieve. And I think it just demonstrates the commitment of this community to its downtown. Okay? There's a lot of passion and energy around seeing good things happen in the community. Otherwise, people just wouldn't take the time to do it. So 280 is amazing. I'm not going to run through the whole thing, but I picked out some slides that I thought you might see. All this information will be provided to the program, and it's certainly free, open to everyone to take a look at. Okay. But you'd be here for all night, and then you'd be mad at me. So I'm giving you the Cliff Note version. So one of the questions was just about their relationship. So we kind of wanted to get a grounding of how integrated are people into their downtown? How do they use it? What have you? And what you can see here is a number of people regularly visit or have some sort of connection to the downtown. So almost 3/4 do. That's quite unusual, frankly. Not a lot, always in every community do that many people go to their downtown on a sort of regular, frequent basis. So it also suggests then that this downtown is not just a place for shopping, but it's also a place where you can get your gas, you can go to the library, you can come to City Hall, you can go to other civic organizations, you can go to your local church. It's multi-function, It also means long-term, it has greater resiliency. Because if it's just dependent on one thing, like retail, or one thing like services or whatever, if that goes away or is not as strong, then downtown is not as strong. So we think resiliency, and unlike a shopping mall or a big box retailer or like a Walmart, you have multiple reasons to come here, not just one. All right? So that's the strength. The other interesting thing with who filled out the survey is how many long-standing residents. Okay, so there's a lot. Again, I probably use that word passion quite a bit, but there's a lot of interest. Okay, there's a lot of support for community, and what's also interesting and not as big of a number is how many people 1 through 5. So 10% of the market was the second one. Now, 10% may not sound like a lot, but for people that have only been here a short period of time, for them to be engaged and to respond is pretty cool. It demonstrates that there's an interest in being part of the community. They're not just living here for the sake of living or working here for the sake of working here. They want to be part of the community. And that's important to the work. How frequently do you come to the downtown? You see that a fair amount actually come weekly, and then about a third, I think, although I'm not wearing my glasses, come on a daily basis. Okay. We also asked them about if they were a business owner. And actually there was a pretty strong cohort of business owners in this small sample size. But one of the things that they talked about, and many businesses are across the country, was the need to attract more customers. Okay, that markets are only so big locally. So we have to think about how do we overlay markets. In the old days, okay, back before there were shopping malls and most people like shop locally and all we had was like the Sears Roebuck and catalog. I'm sorry, I'm old enough to remember that. Yep, Christmas time, Sears catalog. Anyway, and so we didn't we didn't have a lot of other opportunities to shop. And so downtown was the only place. And a local market could support downtown. But now what you tend to find is you need lots of different layers to make up a full market. Okay? And so that's why you see a lot of businesses thinking about how can I build that next layer? What is that? Is that on e-commerce? Is it from tourism? Is it from selling through a wholesaler and thinking about like B2B versus B2C? Like lots of different ways to come up with other markets, and this is sort of a response to that.